What is going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. Bobby Fi here. Sheets is out today, but he should be back tomorrow, I believe. Anyway, we're going to talk through this NBA slate. I'll be here for 20 to 25 minutes probably today. It's a smaller slate. There's news that I think we're still waiting on that, we just know that there's some Q tags out there. I'm not worried about LeBron playing particularly, but Conley's obviously pretty relevant. I mean, so is LeBron, but John Morant is pretty relevant in what's a competitive game. And you can see going through my, what some of the things I did. I'm gonna take you through just sort of like the way that I approach these slates. And I did change some projections to suit more what I felt like was the right thing to do and suit more what I wanted actually. So let's get into that. Making sure my screen is sharing the right way. All right, it is. And when you get on in here, please give us the like button. We're doing these videos for free. We really appreciate all the support, but we need to we need to at least get our views up. If you're already not if you're a site member or anything, I don't really care about you guys doing that. I appreciate it. But we're doing a lot of stuff for free, and we do think we have some incredible offerings. I hope you guys can check them out. You got the membership page up there, and we got a lot of great stuff going on. The projections have been on fire from Sheets and Goldie. Obviously, even with a really bad day yesterday, it's been an incredible couple weeks for me. The start of the year has been phenomenal, I think we have a lot to offer. So I'm just gonna go back here, and I'm gonna move my core because I shouldn't be sharing that with everybody. But it's all right. It's not the biggest deal at this point. It's going to change, and it may not be relevant in a little bit. But all right, let's go through the games, and we're going to talk about different projections, and then we'll do a rebuild and just see if anything else pops up while we're on here, as it usually tends to because of the timing of the show. So with that, we will start with the Lakers, who are shorthanded, obviously, tonight, and we need to figure out what to do with this. So basically, I'll be overweight the LeBron thing. I bumped his projection up even a little bit higher than they did. 55 feels pretty reasonable. I'd actually think you could go, 56 is fine. I'll leave it at 56. Connect, getting some love. I'm just leaving the projections where they are on that one. Jackson Hayes, obviously with a pretty high projection, but not going to really mess with that one. And I didn't mess with Max Christie's, but I did bump up Ruiz. And actually, Ruiz jumped up a little bit more. I had him at 27 when he was at 23 earlier today. I actually might even go a little bit higher, and I might do the same thing on FanDuel. I just think there's a lot of upside for him here, and I did want to be above the field on the Austin Reeves play. So it's really hard not to argue for these Lakers today. Now, are we going to be so desperate that we get to Jared Vanderbilt? I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Are we going to play Cam Reddish? Probably not. Are we going to play Koloko? Probably not. But let's wait for a starting lineup before we decide all that stuff, because it obviously could be a big factor. And it is an interesting fade on like the idea to try to play maybe a Koloko a little bit instead of Hayes. Foul trouble can be a thing for Hayes. Sometimes he just doesn't play well. It's just interesting to at least consider maybe building a Koloko lineup or two. But as of right now, you can see I'm pretty heavy on most of these Lakers. These are all the ones I have exposure to, and overweight all of them except for like with the field on Christie and with the field on Connect personally. Connect, you could argue to go a little bit higher, but I'm about there. I just keep lowering the projection on Jordan Poole. There is such a wide range of outcomes for these guys. Playing him as chalk, it's a 5-game slate, so I get it. I actually think it's a great matchup for him to have a big game. He had 8 fantasy points yesterday in 28 minutes. I just don't want to play. I don't want to go quite so crazy. So you know what I'll do? I'll bump him down to 36 and see where we end up with on him after all that. I'm getting to a ton of the Joe Val. I'm getting to just a little bit of the Carrington, and Joe Val should be able to have his way down low. Part of the argument for Koloko is you could get Hayes into foul trouble. It's totally possible right away. I don't like the Kayshawn George projections in general. That's one I'm going to bump down. Look. What are we talking about here? Every day, Kayshawn George has projected for 20 whatever fantasy points, 24 or 23 or 20, now down to 21. At least they lowered it a little bit. But I'm just going to take a quick look at my notes here, because it just like he's young. It's going to be that way. But the guy's projected for 20 whatever fantasy points every day. He hasn't hit 21 once against this Laker team, and it was 21 exactly in the last 8 games. What are we doing? Why do we have to keep doing this? I understand it might be tonight that he gets there, but it just doesn't feel like the right thing to be forced in. And I would rather be underweight that, any sort of ownership on him. The one I'm going to go over with that I bumped the projection up on is Kyle Kuzma. Again, I lowered Poole, and I'm going to get to both Kuzma and Poole a decent amount. It also makes for a nice game stack. But I think Kuzma has a better ceiling here than people are giving him credit for. So I wanted to get him in a few more of my lineups. He did play 33 minutes yesterday, which is a little concerning, but he's a boomer bust guy as well. And if this game stays competitive, though, I could see a big game from Kuzma incoming pretty easily, especially with AD out. The Lakers defense is just not nearly as good. One thing we did yesterday, we had a bad DFS day, but we hit every single bet. I made 4 bets, hit every one of them easily too. They were not even close. Like I had Golden State plus 10 and a half against OKC. They beat them. You know, I had the Knicks and Denver under. They went under by 10. Like it was so I did post a couple bets today, and I'll just give one away for this. I do think Washington covers here. I like them quite a bit. And I think Rashawn Holmes is an interesting tournament dart. I didn't get to him in my first builds. I'm trying to decide if I want to change anything with him. I don't think I'm going to because the minutes are so scarce. But it is a back-to-back for Joval, and that's a time where we could. You know what I am going to bump him up just a little bit. We'll give him 16. And not touching Joval's projection, not going to touch. Again, I bumped up Kuzma, bumped down Keyshawn George. And by the way, I can make a pretty good case to lower it even more. But that's sort of where I'm at here, and I'm going to rebuild in a minute. I'll go to FanDuel, and then we'll get out of here at some point after that. Trae Young is an interesting. I wanted to get I bumped his projection up a little bit because I wanted to get a little bit more exposure than the field does. I feel like if they stay competitive in this game, Trae Young, this is the best chance they have is Trae Young having a big game. So look, they probably get smoked like everybody does with Cleveland, but I think it's close enough to where I could actually justify just bumping that up a little bit. I also think Ricochet's projection is a little bit low, so I bumped it up a tiny bit. Didn't go up. It's not going to make much of a difference. Didn't get too many. But take Ricochet versus Keyshawn George, okay, with the current version of Ricochet, not the games where he was playing 19, 17 minutes where Jalen Johnson was playing. Without those guys, he's actually been pretty good per minute, and he's got a ceiling at 4,100. I think Ricochet is interesting, so I bumped that one. I bumped that one up a little bit. I'm going to go a little bit more, and I bumped up a Kongwu. I think this is also a little too low, even by me. And I think Larry Nance is another one that I wouldn't. Again, I'm probably not going to end up getting to him, but I don't mind going over there. I always bump down the projection for DeAndre Hunter. It's for whatever reason, I just feel like it's always overdone, and they force him into too many of my lineups. So I am going to bump that one down. Not especially interested in Krejci. I do have a little mild interest in Daniels. That's the other way they could get there. But I think Trae Young is the one I want to be a little bit overweight on. Not like crazy, but he and LeBron seem like a couple of good guys to spend up on if you want to go that route. I am not touching Cleveland's projection because we don't know about Merrill yet. I'm going to get some exposure to a number of these guys, especially if Merrill's out. I don't know that I need to go all in on Ty Jerome, but it is kind of interesting to think that Ty Jerome last night still ended up like 1,000,000% owned. And because even after coming off the bench, and he just went nuts. And why do we think in this matchup against Atlanta, especially with the blowout possibility, why do we think he won't do it again? So actually, you know what? I'm talking myself into it. I bumping it up a point. And these little differences will make a huge difference in what you end up on. And again, this is for my math entries. I'm going to end up editing my high buy-in stuff myself. Although last night I ended up with Keyshawn George because I missed it in one of my buy-ins, one of my big buy-ins, and I just felt like an idiot. All right, what else do we have here? So yeah, not really touching anybody else there. I did want to bump up Ty Jerome just a tiny bit. Even with I know, so we have. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned Mitch. With that, we have Mitchell back, but I just feel like with Jerome, without these other guys, with no Levert, no Okoro, no Dean Wade, the minutes are going to go somewhere. I think there's upside for Jerome here. I just bumped it up a tiny bit anyway. Minnesota, obviously, this hinges on Conley. This projection feels aggressive on Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I actually, again, another guy I've talked about in the early part of the show. I think he's a really good real life player. He did put up 31 yesterday. As a median, do we think he should really be at 20? Maybe that's right. It's probably close. I think it might be a little lower. So I actually don't mind just going a little bit under on that. Let's make it 19.5 or so, just because I'd rather be a little bit more underweight that one. Conley, I don't mind. I just went a tiny bit over. And again, these are later games, so we'll have opportunities to late swap. Rudy Gobert against his former team, I didn't really do much. I went up 1/4 of a point. I think that was the 400th of a point. Naz Reid is available today. So again, with the illness, we don't know exactly how it's treating him. So I'm just sort of mostly letting it take what it gives me. I'm going to drop Julius Randle back to his original projection because that was me speculating that Naz Reid might be out, and I wanted to, give an accurate look of what I'm doing. And now Dillingham has actually gone up. I'm actually wanted to be overweight Dillingham. When I first made that, it was above weight. And I might even go a little bit higher on Dillingham. I think that there is potential for them here in this kind of, especially if they can get the blowout game going in Utah. I think Dillingham could like lead the second, the backup guys, and then end up just staying on the court. That's the route I see for Dillingham. Anyway, moving over to Utah. I'm not messing with any of the projections on SaberSim myself. It just feels like you're just playing with a little bit of fire, and nobody looks especially great except for John Collins. It looks solid. I'll sort of take what they give me when it comes to the Utah side of things. There's a lot of guys I can make cases for over there, but I don't think I'm really going to go crazy with it. So maybe Jordan Clarkson or John Collins would be the only ones I'd probably get to. I like this game better than the field. I want to be overweight. This great pace-up game for Houston. I would like to be overweight. I mentioned earlier Tari Eason, I think, is a good sneaky play tonight. I actually might even go a little bit higher with his projection. Let's make it 26. I want to get some Tari Eason tonight. Fred VanVleet has not been the most exciting roster for DFS. He's played good real life basketball, but not my favorite when he gets to even have double-digit ownership. We'll go tiny. We'll make it 35, whatever. We do have Şengün and Adams questionable, so I don't really know. I'm going to probably end up resetting these because I just don't want to either of those guys out. This is a very different slate, but really not touching much else over on the Houston side. On the Memphis side, Gigi Jackson this felt like a little bit too aggressive of a projection for Gigi Jackson with assuming that Morant and everyone plays. Now it's a later game. Again, you'll have time to adjust. I like Gigi Jackson a lot. I just don't think the minutes are going to be that secure in this kind of a matchup. So I wanted to be underweight him. Brandon Clark, I kind of am leaning in a similar direction. I feel like I'd like to maybe again, I'll be a little bit underweight if I just drop that projection, but he's been solid enough in this range where I don't know. I sort of didn't know what to do with that one. So I left it the same for right now. Zach Edey. Edey's been good and shown upside too. And it is definitely a play I think we should probably be over on in general. We're not going to go crazy with it, but I'll bump it up to 24. So Edey versus, would it surprise any of us if Edey outscores Jackson Hayes? You can actually play both of them too. And for what it's worth, I mean, Edey's been productive. And you have a team that plays, assuming that the bigs play, that plays a big all the time, which means Edey could actually get extra run. And he's been good even when he's had limited minutes for the most part. Now, he's trending upward, in other words. Jaren Jackson Jr., again, want to be overweight this game in general. I think it's a bump up for a lot of these guys to play in a competitive game. The minutes are a little too low. So instead of changing the minutes, I'm changing the projection. And I think that I might even go a little bit more aggressive on Ja. We don't get to see these guys play over 30 minutes because a lot of their games are blowouts. If this one stays close, I think you could get that ceiling type of game from Ja, from Triple J, and from Desmond Bane potentially. I only bumped him up one. It's not going to matter that much because his price is probably a little too high. But that's where I'm looking at it. So we'll rebuild in a minute and take a look at this after I get to Orlando, Portland. Love Banchero tonight. You can see I bumped his projection up. I know it didn't work the other night. I don't expect him to shoot 10% from the floor next time. I also really like Franz. I think those two make a very, very nice core pieces here. But Jalen Suggs is questionable. We don't know about that. We're probably not going to know about that. I would actually lean more towards that he maybe doesn't play, but it's up in the air. So I don't really know what to do other than those two. And even if he plays, I think those two are still totally reasonable in their price range against a team that doesn't play great defense. DeAndre Ayton, I saw enough the other night to feel like I got to start getting some exposure whenever they're going to let him play. He has been really, really good when he's played for the most part. He had two really bad games, in the injuries, and then he sits out here and there. It's just a weird situation they're running in Portland. But I think that Ayton has a ton of upside here, and I actually might make this projection even a little bit higher if it weren't for Orlando. But other than that, not getting to much here other than Simons. I don't mind the Avdia thing. Everybody, I don't know if everybody knows, but I love Avdia as a real life player. I feel like he's much better than he gets credit for. So I'll bump him up a tiny bit. Let's rerun and let's see where we're at versus the field. Things are going to change probably after lock. I will update everybody along the way what I'm doing in our Discord as I always do. But no news in the first 15 minutes of the show. So that's kind of surprising. And I'll get to all the questions and thoughts in the Discord. So go ahead and fire them on in there. Let's rebuild and let's see where we're at. As I mentioned earlier, I've had better success using the projections, upping the projections versus using the min-max exposures. It just doesn't work out that well with the Saber Sim optimizer. So and the contest sims. So I think it's really important to try to find a different way. And so that's why I started messing with the projections a little bit to what I felt like, even if it's a little bit aggressive, we're playing for the aggressive outlier games, right? Like we want to find those things. So I might bump up a guy where his median might actually be lower, but that's just, it's just worked out for me and I'm going to stick with it. In football and in golf, especially short slates in football, I think that I'm still using the min maxes, although my golf is off to a very blah start today. But in this where you don't want to leave any money on the table, I ended up too often with the max amount left on the table because I was doing the min max stuff too much. So let's run the sims and then let's see what we get. And then I'm also probably going to change the min uniques to see if it can suit what I like. All right, let's take a quick look here. Evening to Andy. Thank you very much, Derek. I appreciate the kind words. We really do put in the effort, and I appreciate that you're appreciating it. Thanks a lot for that. And guys, give us the thumbs up. And I want to get out of here at an earlier time so I can really cater to our users and like update them with my projections and my exposures. It's always so hard in NBA, especially on big slates like last night, because there's so much stuff that comes in that I almost just want to like let them know what I'm doing. Flirting with the idea of maybe just going live in the Discord, like for just doing what I'm doing. It's going to be dead air. It's not going to be like the most fun, but you will see exactly the changes I'm making. And look, I'm not saying it always works for me, but it's worked pretty well. It worked pretty well so far this year and for the last 10 years. All right, next up, would I play Dillingham, Nah, and Edwards in the same lineup? Probably not, Brendan. It feels like you're asking for a weird outcome of things if you're going to play them. And it's possible that it works. I just don't think that's optimal, in my opinion. And I always appreciate Brendan's thoughts, though. Playing Jokic and fading all the Pacers cost me as well. Got crushed last night. First real crushing in a while. I got every one of my bets right last night, but I missed on. I had too much Joker, and I wanted to make a hard stance, and you could get to him, and I had no idea they would sit him with 2 fouls after 2 minutes in the first half, and then not bring him back till the second half. That was really surprising to me in Madison Square Garden for the one of the 2 times you go there a year. Sheets didn't really get to see the best Jokic performance. All right, D-Pope, good to see you, man. Sam Merrill is in. Appreciate the word, Brandon. Guille, too cute. So let's take a look at Guille. My answer is probably going to be what you'd expect. Is he going to start? And he probably is. Well, let me just double check that. I don't think he's going to start, actually. If Guille was to start, I think we could play some of him. If he does it, I don't know if it's too cute. It's a 5-gamer, so I would say take a shot. But as of right now, I'm not getting too much of the Guille personally. That's just sort of where I'm at. All right, let's see what else. Oh my God, the games are at. I thought the games were at 7:30, and then okay. So we'll get everything in by the time that things go. Ask any other questions there. Let's take a look at the builds, and I don't want to give away all my exact exposures, but I'm going to sort by exposures. You guys will probably see real quick. But that's what I'm getting. So I'm getting Joval just like massive. Let's see if we change the min uniques and if it affects things much. Where is LeBron here? That's too low. Let's see where we have him. It's still probably like 40%, 33. That's not high enough for LeBron. Tempted to make this number 57 and see if that changes anything. I don't necessarily think that's necessarily his median. 56 feels right to me. I just think it's hard to not want to play more LeBron without AD, especially if he's not really going to be 25% on it. It's going to be higher, especially in the higher buy-ins, but it is what it is. All right, so let's rebuild, and then we'll try to mess with the min uniques. Then we'll talk FanDuel real quick, and then I will probably get out of here. Oh, that's cool, Andy. That's interesting. It's interesting that that on a slate this small, you see the SaberSim ownership right here. Okay, like it's nobody over 40. It's probably not going to be right, and we'll probably get some news and stuff. But it's a little surprising for a 5-gamer to have nobody over 40, especially when AD is out, assuming of course that LeBron does in fact play. John Morant just got moved to doubtful, so everything changes. We're going to go back to Memphis, and I mean, if he's doubtful, I'm going to assume he doesn't play. I'm wondering what the Vegas lines will do. I'll check on that, but I think that is a good excuse to get to some Memphis, and I'm going to go back and reset my exposures because I want to get what the accurate projections are. So John Morant out. It could be Scottie Pippen season again. Now, Pippen may not start, but I think it's going to end up being Scottie Pippen. Either way, you're going to have time to update that stuff later today. You don't have to do it all right now. We'll see what the projections say if they're still there when we get out of here. But that's going to affect some things. So I'm going to make Ja Morant's projection 0. Just assuming. Again, I can always add him back. There's going to be room. I'm going to have some money because I've got Paolo and those guys from the later games. But I'll wait for it to update. But you know what? I'm just going to run it without. But I think it's going to be. And I'm just going to put my max exposure, my ownership 0, and we're going to do. Where's my max exposure? There, min exposure, my projection. Where's my max exposure? Am I missing something here, guys? Oh, there we go. Like, okay. So as of right now, I wouldn't be getting. I'm just going to exit out, and then we'll update everything in a minute. Is it Luke Kennard season? Kennard started last time. For those of you guys who don't remember, it's not my favorite thing to do, to be honest. But he certainly has the upside and can he's got to hit his threes. You'd think they would start him because they did last time, but it's not a guarantee, and you kind of need him to really be hitting those threes. That's pretty much it. You can look at his game log of what he does, and he did have 7 assists in the last game, which is weird because I think he only took 3 shots, and he still only had 19 fantasy points, but he had 7 assists. That's kind of shocking to even see on paper. His assist numbers are actually decent overall. So yeah, I think it's going to be Kennard probably. I think it's going to be Kennard and Scottie Pippen who pop, and they sort of eat into each other, but they can both certainly get there. I think Scottie Pippen is. I got to think about it. I'm going to have to think about it, and I'll let the projections help me decide. But they're not going to make all the decisions for me. So obviously that's a big piece of news. So we're going to have to what happens if we rerun it now without him? Again, we'll just wait for the little green light to pop up and have everything here. Let's see if there's anything else that I've got. I don't think so. Yeah, let's see. Anybody else up to a great start in golf? It's a very meh start for me. Fleetwood was looking good, and then he did double bogeyed and sort of fell apart a little bit. And I played over the field on Oberg. That did not work out. He's way well worse than everybody else. Yeah. Anyway, so it's we'll see where it ends up, but it's not ideal. All right, so doubtful Ja is what we're going to be having to wait on. I don't want to wait the whole show on this, so I'm just going to talk about what else we do. Triple J Bain, yeah, of course, yeah, absolutely. Triple J Bain, Franz Paulo are looking like great GPP plays. All of those plays are good plays. Triple J Bain, Franz Paulo, yes, absolutely. Yeah, MC did the same thing I did. Glover, I have a ton of Glover. That part I got Glover and who was the other cheapo? I have a lot of those guys together. That's nice, Got one lineup here where I've got everybody is 6 under or better. But it's a long ways to go. Yeah, so we'll see. Yeah, Lee Hodges was the other one, especially in the high buy-ins. A lot of people played him too, and he had a monster day. So Glover and Hodges were 2 that I was heavy on, and so far those 2 are at least working out. Man, we'll see. What's crazy about the Oberg thing? You could just have a crazy day. And also we had 2 hole-in-ones today, like Rory and Lowry. So I would be surprised. I'm going to take a quick look and see if Rory and Lowry aren't leading at least the big buy-in tournament, because I'm guessing that Lowry was lower owned than I thought he was going to be. I thought he was a really good play. No Rory or Lowry. Did Lowry fall apart a little bit or something? That's interesting. Lowry, Rory. There's the Lowry, Rory. Yeah, that's wild. 2 aces on that day, though. Oof, that's going to be tough. Tough to compete without those 2 together, at least some places. We'll see. Long ways to go. There might be more to come. That looks like a pretty easy hold today. All right. Yeah, but the thing is, Oberg could come back, but he can't contend to win. I think that's got to be written off. It's not like he's not going to shoot 25 under and then nobody else shoot. It's just not possible. But he can come back and be one of the top 10 scorers. Maybe he gets a bunch of birdie streaks, a birdie streak each day. Maybe he makes a few eagles that other people don't. It's possible still. It's a long ways. Yeah, he could have a good score, but he's not going to be your best hope is top 10. So they still haven't updated yet. I'm going to go over to FanDuel and just take a look. It's probably going to show my exposures. They're all going to completely change now. This is what I was getting before when I ran these things. Again, I had a little more LeBron over there. Still same a ton of Valanciunas. Had less Hachimura, but I bumped his projection up. I like the Hachimura against his former team on the road in Washington. No AD. It just sets up nicely for him in a lot of ways. So I'm in on the Hachimura idea. And then we'll hopefully hear about Conley. But it wasn't getting too crazy with anything different over here at first glance. It takes down to like where I had 18% of Larry Nance. I think that's a very, very reasonable play, especially on FanDuel. But like I said, everything is probably going to change in the very near future. Yeah, a ton of Jackson. Jackson. So, but I don't think just want to point out that Jaren Jackson plays a style of play where it's not like, oh, Ja Morant's out, lock in Jaren Jackson. I still like Jackson. I actually liked him better anyway. I actually liked him earlier to start today. We've seen Ja miss plenty of games where Jaren Jackson has 30 fantasy points. I think that the more natural thing would be Bane as far as spend ups go, who's finally, after a slow start, kind of been finding it more. But I also think it's just going to bump up everybody. Then Kennard and Gigi Jackson and Scottie Pippen Jr. are all going to look pretty good. I don't think that I can quite get to the Wells thing, but I like this kid in general. But yeah, you're pretty much going to get like, I think it's going to pop for Kennard, somewhat for Scottie Pippen Jr., somewhat for. I think it'll pop for Gigi Jackson too. I'm just going to make sure to go over to Memphis and make sure I changed some of the projections over here. Oh, I didn't change any of their projections. Wait, where's I didn't change any. So let's reset. Oh, no, wait, I'm resetting all my FanDuel, which is fine because I'm going to have to go back and edit mine after this. But Ja Morant, I'm going to put as 0. If he plays, I'll be able to switch because I do have guys on that Magic side. Let's see what they've got here. Yep, Ja Morant. It updated. But if it updated, how come if I refresh, why is it still got 38.08? It just told me that he's out on here. And yet Ja Morant, what's going on, Saberson? Let's go. Let's figure this one out. Very, very strange. So I'm just going to put 0. Give me the alarm. Oh, that's why it gave me the alarm, because I pressed the 0. Duh. I'm sorry, guys. Brain not entirely there, apparently. That's all on me. I'm just going to say 0 for across the board and assume that he doesn't play, especially because we have this weird gap between games. So I'm just going to go that route. And I do have enough Paolo, Franz, Ayton to probably save it at the end. So we're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're still waiting for the updated projections, but they are what they are. You're not going to know for sure anyway till later who's going to start. So it's really just up in the air. Is what it is, I guess. Shoot, I really thought that Ja would get up for this game. Let's just see what Vegas has done with the line. I'm surprised that it would. I don't think they'd be 5-point favorites without Ja. So I'm going to guess that that's going to drop their. Where's my page that I'm looking for? Got a new screen set up over here. As you guys can see, I'm keep turning, so it's like a little bit different for me. So let's see. They were 5-point favorites. I think that it's going to be Pick'em or something close to it. Still 5-point favorite. This is ridiculous. Yeah, it's just not updating. Let me just see. I don't want to open FanDuel and do all that. Oh, there we go. There's something. All right. Get rid of that. And we are going to see what happens. All right. So it's not updated fully. Did it update Ja? Let's see. It did that weird little hedge thing, the thing that I hate the most. That weird little hedge, 33 fantasy point. Obviously there's never a median outcome for Ja unless he's playing 20 minutes for it to be 33. But that's what they're doing. I'm just going 0, but I think we need to get a bump on everybody else. The problem is it won't reflect as long as they consider that he might be in. So just keep some money reserved here for this later games. It's another excuse of why I always say I like to just, bump up the later games much more than I want to bump up the early games. Today, I just happen to like the Lakers. Felt like a couple guys' projections were a little off. But in general, that's what you want to do, is to just be able to, use that late swap to your full advantage. Do I think Reeves pays off the price? I don't know which site you're talking about, MJ. Now that Vincent is out, Connect was already in play. Yeah, he's fine. Yeah, it's going to be some Memphis stuff for sure. The only thing that's tough about Memphis is they also play like 25 guys, it feels like. Does Ja Morant out? No. But I like the ED over 7.5 points. It helps them. Don't get me wrong, it helps them, but it's not like it's not they're going to go, oh, Ja's out. Let's do ED. We've already named 8 guys who it's benefiting on Memphis, so it's not going to work for all of them. It's only going to work for some of them. My favorites would be the Bain and Jackson on the high end, obviously, but those are really the only high ends. One guy who might be an interesting tournament play is Santi Aldama. He really can put up a number, and his wild range of outcomes. It's just tough. I mean, I've named like basically everybody on the roster for Memphis, but that's what it's going to be. And Clark, his projection, it's not that much higher than it was on FanDuel. Bain is pumped up a little bit. Jaren Jackson pumped up a little bit, but not as much as maybe it should. GG Jackson is going to look better. Let's go back to FanDuel and DraftKings and see what it says. Let's update. And we did get a Cleveland starting lineup, which I'm going to guess is probably what they always do, unless I missed something else. Cavs: Garland, Mitchell, Struss, Mobley, Allen. Yep, just what you'd expect from Cleveland. Another one that doesn't project well that I think you could incorporate is Struss, by the way, from that early game. But I don't think you by any means have to. I just think that maybe there's a little more upside than he gets treated like there is. Certainly not, what is he now? What do they make him on 45? I mean, he's put up like 27, 30. Those games that LeVert, he's getting minutes. I think maybe that's another guy we can pump up a little bit, not that he's so far off the board, but 24 is probably right. All right. Any other questions? I'm going to get out of here and update this stuff. Okay, so Morant does have 0 with the update. Let me just double check that because I just updated. And we will see John Morant has 0. Okay, so now let's see let me just take another quick. I still feel like there's more updates to come for Memphis, but at least we have a feeling. So yeah, look, on DraftKings, you got GG Jackson is the one that pops like crazy. Brandon Clark, Scottie Pippen. See, I told you all these guys are going to get some bumps, and that's what you do. I think the Aldama one is kind of interesting because I think that could get a little bit slept on. So I'm going to get out of here and finish my builds and update the people in our site in there. Always DK. Yeah, I think that look, he's totally in play. Do I now think he's a better play than Jaren Jackson or Desmond Bain? It's close. The 8,500 is a lot. I'm getting to him much more on FanDuel, but I do think that it's certainly not like out of this realm, like ridiculous pricing or anything. He definitely can pay off the price. I will have exposure on both sides, but especially on FanDuel. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Good luck to everybody. I'm going to finish my builds and update everybody in the Discord. Good luck, and